Welcome to the DFS Express Podcast, your stop for daily fantasy sports talk, including slate breakdowns and industry commentary. Let's go to the host of our show, the Daily Fantasy Sniper.
What is up, everybody? We are back. And today's episode is a slate breakdown for UFC Nashville. The main event is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson taking on Anthony Showtime Pettis. Really difficult card to break down for DraftKings because for me, there is not a single underdog I'm picking to win straight up. There are some live ones, some who make for good DFS plays. We'll talk about them as we move along. Before we get started, as always, please like, comment, subscribe to the podcast. I really appreciate it, both on YouTube and on iTunes. Appreciate the support. You can also give me a follow on Twitter at the DF Sniper to get more in-depth breakdowns for MMA, not just from myself, but from the rest of the staff at DFS Army, as well as content for all daily fantasy sports. Become a VIP member at DFS Army. Go to dfsarmy.com. Use the code SNIPER for 20% off your membership for this and every month. And the last thing that goes with supporting the podcast, if you leave a 5-star review on iTunes here in the month of March, we're getting towards the end of March, you will be entered to win a DFS Army t-shirt. It comes from the swag bags they give out for members who have big wins. Going to give one of those away to one of you listeners for free at the end of the month. Just leave a 5-star review on iTunes. I think I got all the pleasantries out of the way. Let's start talking about some fights on this card. First up, we have Eric Shelton, 8,700, taking on Jordan Espinoza at 7,500. Line on this fight, Shelton is the favorite, minus 170. Comeback on Espinoza is plus 150. Espinoza is actually one of the underdogs on this card who I think is live, and he's one of the ones that people aren't talking about. These two guys are pretty similar. We've seen they're both well-rounded. They both have some grappling. Just well-rounded fighters at flyweight. Shelton has been inconsistent. He's been in there with the better competition, obviously, as Espinoza is making his UFC debut. But Shelton has no-showed against guys. He's got some decent wins. I think it's going to be a close fight. I do think I'm going to edge Shelton in his experience. I also think he's a little bit crisper on the feet. But if either one of these guys got takedowns, I wouldn't be shocked. If Espinoza had some success in the feet, it wouldn't stun me, though I do think Shelton's movement and striking is a little bit better. Espinoza is certainly live, especially with Shelton's propensity to no-show, and we've seen it before. And point per dollar in their salary range, Espinoza is way more likely to reach salary at 7,500 compared to Shelton at 8,700. So my pick to win the fight is Shelton. Espinoza is my preferred play at 7,500. Chris Gutierrez, 8,300, taking on Ryan McDonald, who I've been calling Ronald all week, at 7,900. Gutierrez all the way up to minus 225, McDonald plus 185, so huge value here on Gutierrez. For me, on this tough slate, he's near cash game lock, and if you have heard me on any podcast or talking in the DFS Army VIP chat, I hate the word lock, but 8,300 minus 225, a card with not a lot of underdogs. Give me Chris Gutierrez. I'll have a ton this week. McDonald is this week's Nick Negueramanu from last week. He's beating up a bunch of cans. He might look to grapple here. Gutierrez looked decent in the first round against Raoni Barcelos, who is a legit prospect at 135. McDonald, to me, is just not ready for this step up. I think Gutierrez is a decent prospect. Line value here and just a jump in competition, give me Chris Gutierrez at 8,300. Angela Hill. Oh, sorry, I'm going by the order on best fight odds. Let's make sure that is right. It is. I could have kept going. Angela Hill, 8,200, taking on Randa Marcos at 8,000. Hill is the favorite, minus 150. Marcos plus 130. Tiny bit of odds value here on Angela Hill. You have to like her volume, even though she is a striker. She has enough volume, not a lot of finishes at women's strawweight. Whereas Marcos is a grappler, striker versus grappler matchup. Marcos is incredibly hittable, though. I think Hill's going to be athletic enough to stop some of the single legs that Marcos goes for. I would like it more if she shot more blast doubles. I think Hill's got more upside here. And even though Marcos is a grappler, she doesn't score particularly well. I love the pace Hill sets. I think she's the better fighter here. Give me Angela Hill as my preferred play at 8,200. But I don't hate Marcos in the spot. If you want to go there and cash, it's not likely to be a finish. I just think that Hill is the better fighter. Alexis Davis, 8,600, taking on Jennifer Maia at 7,600. Davis is minus 140. Maia at plus 120. Obviously, just based on the last fight, the odds value here is on Maia. She's a striker in this fight. Another striker versus grappler women's fight. This time I lean towards the grappler and Alexis Davis. She's not going to be very heavily owned just because of the odds value on her. And people tend to like Jennifer Maia. Look, I don't think she's going to score great, even if she wins. Stand-up fighter Davis should have taken the fight down against Chookagian and chose to stand and trade. Had some success, actually, against Chookagian, which bodes well for her in this fight. I hope she's smart enough to go for a takedown. I think she's got more upside here. I like Alexis Davis at 8,600, but probably one of my least favorite plays on the card. Not a fight I'm going to have a ton of in either direction. Moving on as my screen is refreshing. Sorry, guys, for the delay there. It is Marlon Vera at 8,400, taking on Frankie Saenz at 7,800. Line on this fight. Vera is minus 160. Saenz is plus 140. I haven't gone back and forth in this fight. Obviously, I'm picking Marlon Vera because I said I'm taking all the favorites on this card. Saenz is live here. He can look for a takedown, but Vera's tricky off his back, can find submissions. I just see multiple paths to victory for Marlon Vera. Also, when he wins, he scores over 100 points. Pressure fighter, moves forward, aggressive. We've seen Saenz finish before. I think Saenz is going to want to keep this more technical and slowed down, and that's how he wins, and that doesn't score well. I know we're hurting for underdogs. There's a couple other spots I'd rather go than Frankie Saenz. Espinoza's one I mentioned earlier. I think I'm going to have a really condensed pool of dogs who are live, just because I don't want to spread out among guys who I don't think are going to win. And I want to have some Vera because I feel like if Vera wins, he's going to score well. This is all kind of like in NFL. We talk about game script. This is fight script. If it's Marlon Vera's type of fight, he scores really well in a win. If it's Frankie Saenz' type of fight, he could win. I don't think he scores great, and Vera's still live in those spots. So give me Marlon Vera as the preferred play at 8,400. Bobby Moffitt, 8,800, taking on Bryce Mitchell at 7,400. Moffitt minus 165. Mitchell, the comeback, is plus 145. Gonna go with Moffitt here. Two similar fighters in that both are going to look to grapple here. Both are good on the ground. I think Moffitt has the edge. I think he's the better BJJ guy. We've seen Mitchell sweat before. Mitchell looked good against Tyler Diamond. I won't go into the injury that makes everyone laugh. I feel bad for Bryce Mitchell. That just terrible injury. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead, Google it. You'll find it pretty quick. Coming back from that, I think Mitchell might be the better striker, but they both look to grapple. I think Moffitt's the better grappler. And with Macy Barber and Curtis Blades, who I both really like as well on this card, who we're going to get to in a second, I think Bobby Moffitt might go a little under-owned at 8,800. I like him. He's the preferred play. The aforementioned Macy Barber at 8,900, taking on J.J. Aldrich at 7,300. Barber, the favorite, minus 245. The comeback on Aldrich is plus 205. Looking, I have been burned a lot by J.J. Aldrich. I still don't think she is that good, but she is developing. She's had a couple stand-up strikers. And then Polyana Viana, who can't do... And stand-up striker for J.J. Aldrich, I'm thinking of Guion, the I don't want to... It's the Korean or the Chinese... The Asian fighter. They just stood and traded for 3 rounds. Polyana Viana has no striking. Aldrich was able to stay up here. Barber has a little bit of everything. You have to like the aggression for DraftKings. Vicious ground and pound. High ceiling. I don't think Aldrich is a world beater. I think it's a good step-up fight for Barber. I think she gets it done here. She's the preferred play at 8,900. Luis Pena, 9,200, taking on Steven Peterson at 7,000. Pena the favorite, minus 255. The comeback on Peterson is plus 215. I think Pena is the better fighter because Peterson is that guy that I've talked about before who just, his best asset is his toughness. But you got Pena cutting even more weight now. He's already skinny for lightweight. He's going to be at featherweight. Let's see if he makes weight on Friday. It's going to affect his cardio. I don't see a quick finish here for him, though he is explosive. So I like the skills of Pena better. That's why I pick him to win the fight. But Peterson is one of those dogs. He's going to be very chalky. I think you'll probably have him in cash games because most people will. I'll see how my build goes. He has upside here because I think this fight is probably going to finish. I think Pena is either going to finish him early or he's going to fade. And Peterson being so tough, which is what makes having an early finish, it worries me for Pena to get one. If this fight goes late, I think the weight cut will really take effect here, and Peterson can finish him late. I like both sides of this fight. Pena's my pick to win, but again, point per dollar, Peterson's the better play here at 7,000. Next up, I think the hardest fight on the card to call, Davis and Figueiredo, 8,500, taking on Jussier Formiga at 7,700. Figueiredo is the favorite, minus 140. The comeback on Formiga is plus 120. Figueiredo, explosive guy, can do a little bit of everything. Did have trouble with Jared Brooks and the takedowns, which I've seen some people point to, and that's what obviously Jussier Formiga wants to get this fight to the ground. Different type of wrestling, though. Brooks is the American wrestler. Formiga looks for trips and kind of body lock takedowns, I think I've seen from him. Different ways to get to the fight to the ground, which he's been effective with. Figueiredo on the feet, though, is going to be way more explosive. I think he's faster. I think he can scramble enough to get up. Formiga could get him down and backpack him, though. Formiga definitely live in this fight. He only loses to the best of the best. It's how good is Figueiredo. This is clearly a good litmus test for him. I think his speed, athleticism, and just his prowess in the feet will be enough here. I'm picking him to win the fight. And what you have to like about him for DraftKings is he has the 100-point upside here. He's the one who could get a quick finish, land a lot of volume, and break the slate. Formiga can win and be a nice piece, especially on a underdog light card. But Formiga's got Figueiredo has got the 100-point upside. He'll be my preferred play at 8,500. John McDessie, 9,100, taking on, I keep forgetting his guy's first name. It is Jesus Pinedo. 9,100 for McDessie, 7,100 for Pinedo. McDessie, the line on him right now is at minus 320. Comeback on Pinedo is plus 260. Look, I don't think Pinedo's any good. He struggled with Devin Powell in that fight. I think, he's a little bit longer, but as he tries to close the distance, I think he's going to want to try and grapple here with McDessie because he's outgunned on the feet. As he closes the distance, I think McDessie tags him up. The problem here is the price tag for 9,100. I don't think Pinedo is good at all, so I'm not going to invest a ton in him. McDessie, though, needs a finish. I think he could get it. His inside the distance line is plus 190. I think there's a little bit of value in that, but if you're looking at the odds for DraftKings, it doesn't make him a great play. I'll have some shares of McDessie in tournaments in case he gets the finish. I can't risk much money on Pinedo. There's another way I'd rather go, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So McDessie's the preferred play at 9,100. Curtis Blades, 9,000, taking on Justin Willis at 7,000. Blades minus 265. The comeback on Willis is plus 225. I'm all about Curtis Blades here. Wrestler, heavyweight, better competition. Justin Willis has been in there with guys like Chase Sherman, who he couldn't finish. Yes, he finished Alan Crowder. Yes, he has power. Everyone has power at heavyweight. Yeah, we've seen Blades knocked down before. We've seen him hurt in fights. People are questioning his chin. The stoppage against Ngannou was iffy. You can argue it both ways, but he didn't go out. He was hurt against Hunt, but he took Hunt down like 10 times in that fight. I think those guys have better striking than Willis. I think pretty clearly. I think Blades get this fight to the ground. I'm seeing people take Willis, and I'm hoping maybe that the ownership on Blades goes down. The best pure wrestler on the card, somebody I'm going to have in my lineups. Blades is the preferred play at 9,000. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, 9,300. Anthony Pettis, 6,900 in our main event. Thompson, minus 410. Pettis, plus 330. So we have the former featherweight champion and Anthony Pettis moving all the way up to welterweight for this fight. Pettis just said he liked the matchup here. Thompson, this is a weird fight. Thompson typically does not score well on DraftKings ever since he's gotten to the main event status and taken on better competition. He was finishing guys earlier in his career. Then people stopped engaging with him. You think Pettis is going to engage. Showtime is going to want to stand and trade. If this fight goes to the ground, if it gets there, Pettis has the advantage, but he's so much smaller, you have to wonder how he's going to get the fight there. On the feet, obviously Wonderboy is more elusive, probably the better technical striker. Pettis is flashier, should have a speed advantage in this fight, I would think. He better with the size disadvantage he faces. He's taken a lot of damage, but he's shown toughness in his career. I don't see a quick finish, so I don't mind Pettis as a cash game punt. Thompson does have the best inside the distance line on this card. It's only like minus 110, 120-ish, somewhere in that range. You can play him, but because I don't have a lot of dogs I like, it's hard for me to fit in Stephen Thompson when he needs a quick finish. And Pettis has shown some toughness, had moments in his fight against Tony Ferguson. Look, I like Pettis as a cash game punt. I think everyone's on Thompson. I might even have a couple shares of Pettis in tournaments. But Wonderboy's the pick to win the fight. It's kind of just, I'm looking at salary here again. Another one of those, the favorite wins the fight more times than not. So Wonderboy's the pick. Pettis, though, for the price tag. And just, I don't see many other people taking him. I don't mind Anthony Pettis at 6,900. So that's what I have for a breakdown for UFC Nashville. Again, guys, thank you for the support. I've gotten good feedback on the podcast. Follow me on Twitter at the DF Sniper. Become a DFS Army VIP, DFSArmy.com. Use the code SNIPER for 20% off. 5-star review on iTunes are appreciated, and you can win a DFS Army t-shirt. Hit me up on Twitter with any questions. Love talking fights with you guys. Otherwise, good luck in your contest. See you next time.